Welcome, welcome. This is episode 3 of the Altitude Promise podcast. I'm your co-host, Big Country, along with my partner, PV. How you doing tonight, PV?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, Big Country?
Been a decent week so far, wrapping up a great sports weekend-ish. Let's be honest, not too much happening Denver-wise, sports-wise, except for the Avs, but, decent.
Yeah, definitely. Nothing too super exciting for us Denver sports fans, but, if you're a sports fan in general, there's a lot of playoff action going on and still a lot to keep up with outside of Denver. So we'll be recapping some of that today.
Yeah, definitely. Let's just jump straight into it. Not too much to talk about this week, obviously, but saw, recording this today as of the 12th today. Broncos and Chiefs are going to be starting off the season in Kansas City, correct?
Correct. Yes. So it sounds like week 1 matchup will be versus Kansas. A lot of people are, a little negative saying, oh no, this is going to be a Justin Fields Bo Nix matchup. But, with the news about Patrick Mahomes, we're hoping for the best. Even me as a Broncos fan, I'd rather see Patrick Mahomes out there, see a really good week 1. It would be nice to get the momentum going if we manage to get a win under our belt. But even seeing Justin Fields, obviously, you never know. New quarterbacks in a new system that you never know if they might excel. So regardless, I'm hoping for a good game that week 1 and definitely really excited to be facing what I would consider to be our most recent rivals.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you never know with Andy Reid as well. He's a mastermind with the playbook. But you got to think if the NFL is scheduling you guys week 1, they got to have some intel on Mahomes that he's going to be back for game 1, hopefully.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
aside from that.
Yeah, even that, even in addition to that, people, I don't know if you've seen, but a lot of people recently actually have the Chiefs as favorites to win the AFC West this year, which, like you said, maybe the NFL has some sort of intel because obviously with them being one of the teams that struggled in the AFC West last year, minus the Raiders, they didn't, you wouldn't really expect them to be right at the top again after a year like that. But obviously they made some adjustments. And so it'll be really interesting to see if they can keep up the high level play that they had before last year's woes.
Yeah, I'm definitely considering the fact that, as a Denver fan that you guys are and you are, damn well you're going to be wanting to put that bet down for you guys at AFC West. It'll be a fun bet to just watch all year round because the division should be tight. As far as any other NFL news, I know my Packers, they released Brandon McManus, longtime favorite here in Denver, but that dude's truly a bum. So can't say I'm not happy about that one.
Yeah, longtime Denver player, he got us through some moments, but, in the end, it kind of got a little rocky. So I wouldn't say that we're too fond of him, but at the same time, he definitely had some good memories with us. So wouldn't hate on him either.
Yeah. Did you see Aaron Rodgers is also going back to the Steelers, reportedly?
I did see that. Yeah, I'm honestly surprised. I thought that it may have been his time to hang up the cleats, but obviously he feels that he still has something in him, and so we'll see if he can prove it for us this year. We definitely saw a couple flashes out of him last year.
Yeah, and honestly, it's not like he can't rip the ball still. It's just being able to protect him and, where he doesn't have to be as mobile because he's not mobile anymore, unfortunately. But, I'll take any more Rodgers I can get as a, Rodgers fan personally, but guess we'll see how it goes.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
he should have came to Denver instead of Russell Wilson.
Yeah, who knows how different the outlook of everything would have been.
Dude, you might have seen me in a Broncos jersey.
Yeah, that would have been something.
I'm just saying. It would have been it would be tempting, I always thought I was gonna get a Jets or a Steelers jersey, never did, but that dude is by far my favorite player of all time. I always will say he's better than every single player. So
yeah,
let's move on to some. Fuck yeah. Let's move on to some Rockies. They're struggling a little bit right now. Kind of status quo since last week. Faces Paul Skeens tonight, and they got shelled.
Yeah, kind of unsurprisingly, unfortunately.
Yeah, I want to say he threw 8 shutout innings today. He's been dominant of late. It's Paul Skeens regardless. But the Rockies didn't have the greatest pitching on the road in Philly over the weekend. The one time they did have good pitching, they won. Surprise, surprise. They win when they have good pitching. Crazy concept. But still a lot of positives to take away from this team early on. We're a quarter way through the season. We've had a lot of winnable games that we've given up. I think the Rockies are just on the bad end of some bad luck. So hopefully, the Rockies can turn it around, get some wins going, protect home field because we haven't been doing that this season so far, at least as much as you should. But any thoughts on the good old Rockies?
Yeah, I think we started off the year a lot better with pitching than we have this month. I think especially in May, we've seen a lot of our struggles, especially from the bullpen. It really sucks to see, potential wins be given up on the sudden big inning that our bullpen ends up giving up, and we've seen quite a bit of that so far throughout this month. And so I'm hoping that we can bounce back and keep being on track for possibly 70 wins on the year. We started off the year kind of having hopes for that, and so I hope that we can kind of get back on track.
Yeah, definitely a 30 win, improvement over last year would be tremendous. I think a big goal for the Rockies is just not having that 100 loss season. It's just ugly to look at when you're all finished up because what did you really accomplish if you lost 100 games? So I
Yeah,
think that should. I mean, they might not say it, but that's probably their goal. It's not losing
yeah,
100 games.
probably.
You know, uh, that would be 4 years in a row if they did that. And prior to 3 years in a row, they'd never done that once in franchise history. So hopefully they can kind of rewrite the ship, bounce back. Weather's starting to warm up in Colorado. I feel like it might be some of the problem with the hitters. It's cold. They don't want to swing the bat as much, but the guys are playing in the exact same conditions. So we just got to be able to adapt.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
hopefully the Rockies. I mean, we all want to see the Rockies win. But let's move on to some NBA playoffs, man. I mean, last night I saw my $100 wager on the Lakers not cash. I really thought they were going to extend to game five. LeBron and Austin Reeves had a shot of, winning and tying the game late. But I mean, is this Thunder team a wagon, man? Do we just
Yeah, I mean, I
call it a
think there's a
wagon?
couple things to take away from that game. I mean, I said it pretty early on, the Thunder, I think they're just too good. They have the team chemistry, they have defense, they have rebounding energy, they have offense. I mean, there's not really an aspect of the court that they're missing. And obviously, even if the Lakers take them down here in game 4, I didn't think they were going to take it to game
No.
6 even. But the really big surprising thing to me at the end of the game is you have Rui Hachimura, who's been
Yeah.
balling and shooting his absolute lights out,
He was the best
and you
shooter on the
take him
floor for
out.
them.
Yeah, you take him out for the last couple shots of the game, and it's just like, you
A
definitely
little
have to put that
interesting
on the
decision by
coach.
JJ Redick.
Yeah, yeah, and it's
I
just
mean,
not understanding who the hot and consistent hand was in that moment.
yeah. I mean, in that moment, you probably drew up the play for Austin Reeves, regardless. You're probably your best player on the floor. You could say he's probably the best shooter. I know Rui was, he was hot from the field that game. He's had some good recent playoff success from three, but Reeves is probably your best bet when it comes from the three. I mean, but at the same time, that was the game tying shot that LeBron also missed. I wouldn't say a layup. He kind of tried to go for almost like a floater. I don't
Yeah,
know if there's a
floating
better
back,
play
bank shot,
available,
yeah.
but I don't want anyone else taking the shot besides LeBron. He's the best player, when he's going down into the paint. So it's kind of just like you just gotta live with it if you're the
Yeah, that's
Lakers.
fair.
But you also gotta wonder what the Lakers are gonna do if LeBron leaves
Yeah.
or
Yeah, no, and
retires.
I have to agree with you there, Austin Reeves had the shot, they drew up the right play, he just missed the shot, and I agree, LeBron's been clutch his whole career, so you do have to put the ball in his hands because he can make that final shot to kinda take that lead late in the game, so I do agree with you there, and so, yeah, what about LeBron? There's a lot of news circulating whether or not he's going to retire or even keep playing with Lakers, wherever he's going to go. I feel like LeBron always likes to kind of leave it up to dramatics and kind of leave a lot of question marks in the air. I do think it's just going to be, if he ever retires, I think we are going to see a tour from him. I think it's inevitable. I'd be surprised if LeBron, of all people, decided, hey, I'm going to just,
Yeah.
retire out of nowhere without everyone doing the whole theatrics and everything. So I do think that if and when the time comes, we'll know. And I don't think it is going to be this year. I think he is kind of just dramatizing things.
I think we got one more, truthfully. Um, we saw another year of progression for his son. Not saying they're gonna do great things next year where Bronny's dropping 15, 5 and 5, and Bron's dropping, 22 and fucking 5. But I mean, it seems like he wants to play a little bit more. He's not like, honestly, he's a little bit like Rogers. He's not gonna tell you the exact truth at the podium. He's gonna dramatize it a little bit. Not as egregious as Rogers, but like 100% agree. Like he does like to dramatize it a little bit, and he'll probably play. But the question is it going to be returning for the Lakers? Because I mean, Dwayne Wade said it best. He's like, he's not going to take a discount probably, and honestly, why should he? He's the greatest player of all time in our era, at least. But I mean, who would you say he goes and plays with if he doesn't return with the Lakers? He go back to Cleveland, maybe.
It would be so surprising to me that he left the Lakers that I really don't know where else he would go, especially given that like you mentioned, his son, I think you would have to find it somewhere that accepts both of them, and he somehow tries to manage a package for the 2 of them. So I it would be
That'd be
really
so
hard for me
sad.
to picture yeah, it would be really hard for me to picture him going anywhere else, but, if he ever went back to anywhere, yeah, I think it would be Cleveland just to give them, a retirement tour type of thing.
Yeah. I mean, and all these like all of our guys that we like grew up watching, they're all, getting up there in age, LeBron, Curry, KD, like that like trio, even Russell Westbrook you can put in that category, even though he's not like, he's not the same player as the other three, but it's just gonna be interesting to see what all those guys do. I mean, I don't think Curry's ever gonna leave Golden State, obviously, but they're still surrounding him with talent. Steve Kerr just re-signed for another 2 years. You just gotta wonder like what are they gonna do with him? Like if they swing for LeBron, that'd be like crazy, obviously. Are they ever going to win? Fuck no.
No.
You got a 43-year-old with a 39-year-old playing some basketball. Yeah, it'd be sick, to share the court with those two. But what's the longevity going to look like when they're, going into game 72 and both are nursing some knee injuries? So
Yeah,
it's
and
going to be
we
interesting to see.
saw attempts at things like that back in Cleveland when LeBron was trying to bring in players like Dwayne Wade
Dwayne
and all these
Wade,
old
yeah.
players. And it just even if you have those players, it's more so having the right role players in a system. That's how you win games, and that's how the Thunder have won their games is nurturing the positions that they need where they need them.
Plus, they also they don't mortgage their future
Right.
ever.
Yeah,
And that's
exactly.
what, like, is, like, the common thread, it feels like, with all these, like, teams with, like, these kinda, like, aging stars, is they mortgage their future and, surround them with some talent, yes, but then, they don't, like, they reap the repercussions 5 years later? I mean, the Warriors are gonna be in a ruin when Steph, Jimmy, and Draymond are all just gonna say, "Fuck it, I'm done."
Right. Yeah.
So
And yeah, I remember people used to make fun of the Thunder all the time for trading for 7th graders, but
mhm.
obviously it's paid off for them because they're still able to retain their lottery picks. They had one this year, and they're never not gonna have a first round pick because of how they set themselves up, and so that's just, I think they showed the world the right way to kind of manage your future and really build off of players that you have in the moment, which at that point was Victor Oladipo, Paul George. They shuffled around a lot of really
That
big
Paul
stars
George
so that
trade,
they could secure yeah, exactly. It was
they
a huge trade for them.
bent
They ended
the
up
Clippers
getting
over.
Jalen Williams, they got SGA, they got I think Chet Holmgren was part of one of those picks as well, which,
I
it's
don't think
just
Chet was because I think they were
ridiculous.
just that bad that year. Not,
Yeah,
like, horribly bad, they just got a good pick. But, like, it goes to your point, like, they don't they just accept what it is. They were rebuilding after, the KD and Russ era, and it worked perfectly. Sam Presti is a genius at GM.
yeah,
You
absolutely,
gotta
yeah.
give him props, and as much as we hate, Shea, his little foul baiting, his flopping, the dude gets it done in big moments. I mean, he came up last night as well. No fouls at the end either. They were kind of
Yeah,
playing him kind of straight up, and this dude went down and just said, "Go fuck yourself. I'm gonna take over the game," and that's exactly what he did. But
yeah, absolutely.
yeah, I mean, I mean, going on to the other series, I mean, we saw Cleveland tie it up 2-2. Going back
Yeah.
into Detroit now, obviously a hostile place, but definitely made that interesting, a lot more interesting. What the hell did I just say?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. No, yeah. They're making things really interesting. I think it's a good matchup. I think that they're really well matched on both sides of the ball against each other. You have really good backcourts on both sides, as well as you have some really good bigs. You have Jalen Duren going against both Evan Mobley, who I think has been really dominant in this series in particular, and then you see also Jared Allen as well helping him out. And so obviously I think that it's a really well matched series, and I think it's going to be really interesting to see who actually comes out on top because I don't really see anyone in particular pulling ahead right now.
No, it's gonna be a dogfight to the end, and I wouldn't mind seeing James Harden go to the finals personally. He's never been. Yeah, he's choked in some moments, some, not most, but dude, he's been in the league a long time. He's never missed the playoffs. So I want to see him like get the chance at a ring. He's not going to win it. Everyone knows that the ring is going to the West, but it'd be nice to see him, have the attempt. Do you think?
Speaking
Do you
of,
think they could get
actually,
past the Knicks though? Or
yeah, now that you brought up, I don't know if it's so obvious that the West is going to be the winners this year. I think the Knicks have just ever since Game 3 or after Game 3,
Mhm.
they against the Hawks, they've just looked unbelievable. and they have that team chemistry that and they have it, if anything, just as if not more refined than the Thunder have it. They had a lot of history together. They played together in Villanova, and then they have years of actually playing in the playoffs all together. And then they have every facet of the court as well, except maybe the only thing that they don't have as good on their side is going to be their defense. And so I think the only thing that I think one thing that's going to make everything really interesting is the Knicks know how to score in bundles. And so they really start
Mhm.
dropping the ball on you, and they just don't stop. And so they, right now this year, hold the highest points differential against teams in the playoffs in anything. I think it was in history. But in second place now is actually also the 2026 Thunder. So it's going to be a really interesting matchup, I think, if they do end up seeing each other in the finals.
Yeah, I mean, nothing would make me like happier to see the Thunder potentially get knocked out. But the problem with like that is just what matchup do we really want to see in the finals is actually going to get some viewership, get me out of my seat to go to a bar to watch the NBA finals because it feels like we haven't had that matchup in a long time. Like even if you're like you could even say this as a Nugget fan, that Heat Nugget Heat series was not must watch TV.
No.
So I
But
mean, I'm hoping we get like one of those big market matchups. I mean, we're down to OKC, San Antonio, Minnesota, so not the greatest markets. And then, but if you have New York, you never know. So
yeah. Yeah, I do think honestly New York Thunder matchup, that would get me out of my seat. I think that would be really exciting to see.
and their
Without
teams,
Denver, that's what I really want to see. They're both
they're
really, really close together. They're both
they're
really well built,
similar, yeah.
And so, and one thing I do have to mention though is last year we did get a really good finals matchup. I think it just got spoiled by Tyrese Halliburton getting injured in the first quarter of that game 7. But other than that, I do think that series was a lot better than any of us were expecting it to be.
But yeah,
I
no
mean,
one thought that series was ever going to go 7,
yeah.
and
Yeah,
especially
exactly.
after Halliburton stole game 1. I mean, that was like the biggest thing. You're just like, oh
Yeah.
shit, they have a
Yeah, so
chance.
I'm hoping we definitely get to see another exciting series that goes to 7, because I think last year's series, game 7 could have been a lot more exciting had we seen Halliburton in the whole time, but I think it was, regardless, overall a pretty good series.
Yeah, and the fact that the Thunder haven't lost a playoff game since Game 7 last year is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, it is ridiculous. Back-to-back
They
sweeps to start this playoff run, so they're looking unstoppable right now.
Yeah. Do you think Minnesota keeps it tight and wins Game 6 after they lost tonight?
Yeah, I think the big problem with today's showing was last game 4. Was it game 4? Yeah, game 4.
Yeah.
You tied it up, but you tied it up barely neck and neck by the end of the game, and you had to rely on Wemby getting ejected in that game. And so I think, especially today, that really showed on both the boards and points down low. Wemby to start the game, just, I don't know if you saw it at all, but I was watching, and that first quarter just could not stop scoring.
I
I
wanna
think he
say he
dropped
had
16
16
points.
and
Yeah.
6. Yeah,
Yes, 16 points in the first quarter, which
that's
is just
tough.
absolutely ridiculous. And then he grabbed 17 boards total for the game today. And so I think that impact, it kind of probably left some sort of like a shaken feeling within the Timberwolves. You can tell that they've been affected by his height. Jaden
He's
McDaniel's
nothing
been
but praise.
talking. Yeah, he was talking all this crap to the Nuggets, but now he's playing the Victor Wembanyama, and he just can't believe his height and his defense. And I think it's really something that's getting to them this series. So I think that they'll try to put up a fight this next game. I think they honestly might keep it close, but I think that the Spurs actually close this one out.
In Game 6, you think?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I mean, I want to see Ant-Man personally get to the finals of any of the players like remaining like the big name guys just because he's, fun to watch and he's an electric type of player. Obviously, I'm a little bit of a Wemby hater, but, who cares? I mean, we'll have to see what happens, obviously. I'm pulling for the Timberwolves, but like you said, like the size is going to be the big matchup. You just got to, what if you just hack a Shack him? Just foul him every time in the court.
Yeah,
He'll,
that's the
he'll
tough thing is
convert.
he actually knows how to shoot. Yeah, he knows how to shoot, unfortunately. So
Yeah. I mean,
he'll just start doing what Shea does, and he'll just start getting
honestly, if
some
you
free
think about it,
fouls.
why didn't we do that to Rudy if he was
That's
such
a
a
good point.
problem?
Yeah, we should have been fouling him down low rather than letting him kinda beat us up. So,
Yeah,
it's too late to do anything about it now. Hopefully the Nuggets can address our defense down low next year.
yeah. I mean, that kind of like wraps us up like for what we're gonna be talking about like NBA wise, because I mean we covered every series. But like I saw this post the other day, and it said if the 2025 Thunder got like a generationally good player like say Jokic on that team, right? Do they beat the 16-17 Warriors if LeBron joined them? And some fucking
Really interesting
idiot said
question.
yes, they would. And I'm sorry, you are adding fucking Thanos to Thanos and his kids. You're not beating that Warriors team probably
Yeah.
straight up regardless because
Yeah,
you
that
have
Warriors team was
probably
different.
the top two out of three players in the NBA at that time on that team. But then you add the god of like thunder essentially to that team, and you're just like, yeah, we'll throw the Serbian horse racer on this team, and it'll just somehow be better. Now, this team got taken to 7 last year multiple times. The Warriors didn't sniff that once.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
fuck all that. But anyways, big news last night. I don't know if you caught the game, but the Avs had a kind of an outstanding game 4 win. Going up 3-1 against the Wild. It was looking a little scary at times. I will say, when we didn't score in the first period, but then we tied up in the second, and then obviously taking the lead in the third. But they came right back in the third, scored almost like I want to say a minute or so later. You're just like sitting there. It's like, this is going to be one of those that we just drop at OT. But then, I think it was Ross Colton that got the equalizer. Not the equalizer, essentially the game winning goal. I want to say with like 7 or 6 minutes to go. And then a couple of empty netters sealed it, obviously. But I mean, you almost had to think it was a must win game for the Avs.
Yeah, I think, especially after watching game 3, I think they had us on our heels a little bit. We were kind of the aggressors. Game was 1 and 2, but it felt like game 3, they were in control a lot of the time. And, right away, they were bringing big hits and they were bringing a lot of aggression. And it felt like that still carried on into the beginning of game 4. Like you mentioned, we didn't actually end up getting going until the second period. But obviously, I think that we finally did a good job kind of stopping on our tracks and kind of getting back to where we need to be going. And, we brought back the aggressiveness again and we stopped putting our tails between our legs and brought back that hard hitting that we always bring. So that's what we needed. And I think as long as we keep up the aggressiveness, we should definitely be able to close out the series.
It was great to see, honestly. And then you got one of their defensemen talking shit about Manson, calling him a dirty player, essentially saying, I'm going to fight you. And then he kind of just backs up. Like, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it doesn't look like the greatest video for Manson's end when he kind of like stick butts him. I don't even know what the hell that's called, but like I felt like he embellished it a little bit. He could have been called for that, but then Manson gets hit for the double minor, 4 minutes in the box. I don't think the Avs killed that. They let up the goal. I think that was the first goal that they actually scored, the Wild. But I mean, you just gotta live with those. Manson's a very hard hitting defenseman, and love him, especially Kylie, shout out. But yeah, she said some wild things the other day about him. But at the end of the day, you got to think the Avs are going to be, I would, a lot of people are calling them a wagon, just like the Thunder. Like they're that good. Question is, are they better than the Canes? We obviously think so, but only time will tell if we get to the Stanley Cup Finals and face them off. So yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
but I believe Game 5 is tomorrow night. I want to say, right?
Yep. Game 5's tomorrow. We hope that we are able to wrap up the series, put a bow on it, and move on to the next round. So,
Yeah, especially if the other series is, going close to 7. I think it's already confirmed for 6. I mean, just getting that little bit extra rest, man, it'll be huge. Get a little gentleman
yeah,
sweep.
definitely.
That'd be pretty freaking sick to
Yeah,
see.
it would
You don't
be.
want to see this series going 6, but at the same time, you can't really think the Avs are going to lose 3 out of 3. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
they're almost too good to have that happen. But honestly, you never know in hockey. Last time the Wild actually came back 3-1,
When was the last time?
0-3 against the
3
Avs.
against the Avs. Well, we hope
Yeah,
that history
it's
does not repeat itself.
yeah. Puck drop 6 p.m. tomorrow, Mountain Standard Time. We'll be watching definitely. But did you catch any UFC over the weekend?
Actually, yeah. It was a pretty boring fight, I would say, but, if you bet on Sean Strickland, you were pretty happy. I wasn't surprised by the scorecards. I know a lot of people that, at least I was around at the time, kinda thought Cosmo might have had it locked down, but to be honest, I did see especially after round one, Cosmo just couldn't take him down. All of a sudden, Sean Strickland switched down to a kind of up down defense to where he was kind of just pushing down on him from the top and using his weight. And so he was just too big and too heavy for Cosmo to really get him into that submission position and make him tired. And so most of the fight, you saw them standing on their 2 feet and throwing punches. And, Sean Strickland's going to win that every day. And he did.
Yeah, honestly, it was, great for the people that took the Sean Strickland money line, Sean Strickland by points, and that fight to go the distance. Crazy bets. Shout out to Crew Talk Sports. Your boy was live with them on Saturday night when that was happening. But no one thought Sean was going to win that fight heading into that, except for us, it felt like. But Sean getting it done was, nice to see. That dude was unbeaten too. That's what was kind of crazy too. And Sean, it's not like he was on a crazy hot streak. He had a good fight on his last one, but he came in and it's just kind of just felt like there's no chance this dude was going to win. Kind of like how when he beat Izzy, Izzy let his ass just get beat. So it's nice to see those Dagestan Russian motherfuckers lose. So I don't like what they're just boring fighters. They grapple a lot. Yeah, I like that
Yeah, I'll give
Strickland
you
keeps
that.
on his feet.
Yeah, I'll give you
If he
that.
can.
It definitely is a lot more exciting to see someone who stays on their feet rather than kind of go down to the ground. Especially, Cosma is, I think, number one in being on top percentage wise in history of the UFC. It was kind of satisfying to see Sean Strickland figure out a way that, he's not good on the ground. In fact, he's terrible on the ground, but he figured out a way to kind of prevent that from being something that would deter him. And so it was really impressive to see, especially round one, he was on the ground basically the whole time. And then immediately he makes an adjustment into round two. So I thought that was really impressive.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see, if he can defend the belt because it's probably gonna be it might be a rematch. I've heard some rumors that Cosmot's gonna move up from middleweight because the cut was pretty hard on him. I heard this time around, but now he's got this kind of lull time in between now and the White House card, so that should be sick. Obviously, you got Taporia and Gaethje, Colorado guy Gaethje. And I think Alex Pereira is gonna be fighting in that as well. It's gonna be. I mean, obviously, it's a great card to win. So you got to pull all those stops out for the White House. So
Yeah,
it's gonna be interesting to see. But
absolutely.
definitely, just huge night for Strickland. I was happy to see it as a gambler. So, but yeah, but we're kind of and rounding up our night tonight. Anything else you want to add in on kind of the sports that you've been kind of thinking about?
Yeah, I'll kind of throw in a little honorable mention or a fun fact here. Shout out to one of our buddies, Braxton. He wanted us to mention the Colorado Mesa baseball team. They're actually currently 49-5, number one ranked nationally for D2, and had a 24-game winning streak. So, little fun fact for you Colorado sports fans out there.
Great for Colorado, man. I always like to see when we're doing something well, especially in baseball, because here is not the greatest, especially
Right,
at a
right.
high school level. It's not like we're producing crazy talent here. I don't think that we have even a D1 program here, so it's
So
kind
it's
of
good to see
depressing.
that our D2 is succeeding so well.
Exactly, yeah. Hey, at least they could figure out pitching, right?
Yeah.
But do you have a potential bet that we could throw these guys away? Maybe a little plus
Oh,
money they've been looking at, maybe a future.
I was thinking, I don't have anything particularly in mind. Have you thought about anything?
I mean, we got maybe some. The fact that they have a bet for the Thunder to go 16-0 in the postseason is kind of ridiculous at plus 1,900. Last night it was plus
Yeah.
3,000 before they won.
I think if they go against the Spurs, I don't think they go 16-0.
Yeah, I think that team's very well equipped to deal with them defensively mainly. I mean, maybe
Honestly,
like you said, the
maybe I
Knicks,
would bet
maybe
on the Cavs and the Pistons to go to 7.
that might not
I
be a
bet
bad
that
one,
series goes
honestly.
to 7. Yeah.
I'm trying to see if we have that. I mean, the Cavs are plus 116 to win it outright, so that's kind of
Not terrible.
yeah. I'm not seeing a bet on not DraftKings,
Or
FanDuel for that.
I would even take the San Antonio money line. I don't think it's plus money, but I would take their money line because I do think they're going to close out Game 6.
Yeah, they're minus 200 as favorites on the road against the Timberwolves.
Yeah.
The Timberwolves have shown up at home both games. I mean, obviously Wemby was out last game towards the end. Did you think that was a little intentional, by the way, that Wemby?
No, yeah, the elbow was definitely intentional. I'm not
Dude,
gonna lie.
I was sitting there and like, obviously you're not going to suspend Wemby, but you know, their names do that. Maybe not big names, 100% suspension.
Yeah, no, it was pretty bad. It was definitely pretty blatant. He had been getting grabbed all day, but you don't just swing an elbow at somebody.
Dude, that he literally he stopped. He's like,
Yeah, no.
it's just like, bro, come on. That's the type of shit that makes me want to fucking punch you. It's like, you never know. The Timberwolves they're a little feisty team, man. They might do something a little dirty tomorrow. You never know.
Yeah.
Or not tomorrow, 2 days. But
Yeah,
we also
Friday.
got the PGA Championship coming up this weekend. You got a couple guys going for the Grand Slam, or no, one guy going for the Grand Slam, and Jordan Spieth. I'm going to personally put a ticket down for him because I want to see it happen. But Scotty's always going to be in the running. He hasn't won a big tournament this year yet, so I'm happy to see him win. Or Cam Young getting his first one. I know you know nothing about golf, Pat,
No,
but
yeah,
I'm
absolutely
just saying
nothing.
names, and this dude's just like, whew, okay. But yeah, it should be a fun weekend for golf. Yeah, I think that about wraps it up for episode 3 of our Altitude Problems podcast. Any closing remarks, PB?
No, not much. It was a short episode. Not much going on for Denver fans, but we'll be back next week and we'll have more info for you, more updates, and hopefully some more Denver sports to talk about. Hopefully we
Yeah,
can tell you about how the Avs close out the series. So
yeah. Honestly, that might be the wagon that we honestly just take as a bet. It's just Avs to win the cup.
yeah, there you go.
It's probably plus money.
Yeah, I would take it now while it still is.
Let me just check for the viewers that watch to the end. Those few viewers.
Loyalists.
Avs are plus 150 right now. That is insane.
There you go. Well, that is our bet of the week.
That is our bet. That is our bet of the week. Avs to win the cup. If you can somehow get a boost on that, why not? But a lot of people are throwing tickets at the Avs right now. So
yeah,
but that about wraps it up. And we will see you guys next week. So yeah, have a good one.
Have a good night, guys.